This story takes us back to the year 1812, when a Swiss adventurer was wandering through the Arabian desert. Johann Ludwig Baghat, this well-known explorer, got lost and ended up on a narrow path between some rocks. After trekking about 1.5 kilometers, the path finally opened up a bit, and he came across a magnificent structure carved into a limestone mountain. Who built this ancient structure in the desolate valleys of southern Jordan, and why? Standing at 127 feet tall, this wasn't just built. It was chiseled right into the mountain. Today, it's known as Khazneh in Arabic. The translation in colloquial English would be a treasure trove, where they keep all the treasure. Stunning pillars rise up from the bottom of the mountain, and the tops are beautifully carved with intricate designs. There's a huge entrance that leads into a room, but this room doesn't have any kind of design at all. You can only see the natural beauty of the stone. The adventurer found this scene pretty surprising, so he decided to go deeper into the rocks. Maybe he was really close to discovering a lost city from history. Further ahead, he spotted a theater that could seat about 6,000 people. And this was carved out of stone. There was a pathway leading to a huge temple-like structure. Some ruins hinted that there used to be a thriving city here. Several monuments were observed even at the heights of the mountains. Baghat had discovered the ruins of a city that used to hold significant importance in history. This city, over 2,000 years old, is now known as Petra. But how did the people who lived here survive in this dry desert without water? Why did they carve out those structures from the rocks? What were they doing in this desolate desert? And most importantly, why did they end up having to give all this up? You see, when Swiss Adventure saw all this, it reminded him of a story about a tribe living in the desert. He'd heard that there was a tribe in the Arabian desert that used to trade silk and spices between China, India, Egypt, and Rome, and they hid their treasure in crevices in high cliffs. Greek and Roman sources referred to them as the Nabataeans. These nomadic tribes were famous about 2,000 years ago, and they used to live in tents out in the desert. But how did the people living in those tents manage to create such an amazing city like Petra? After this discovery by Burckhardt, Petra started getting international attention. Archaeologists and historians from all over the world began flocking here to unravel this ancient mystery. Obviously, constructing something that stands 127 feet tall and carved out of stone at that is no small feat. The workers must have set up some kind of temporary structure to make it happen, just like you've seen nowadays. During construction, a wooden structure is built around the building for the workers to stand on and do their jobs. But, not just in the treasury, there aren't any marks on other structures in Petra that hint at how it was constructed. After a lot of research and experiments, researchers found an incomplete structure in Petra, and that might hold the secret to its construction. It looks like this is only the upper part of the structure, and the rest of the limestone hasn't even been cut out. This shows that the Nabataeans started building structures from the top down. In the case of the Terry, they first climbed up that 7-layered rock and dug a horizontal shaft into the limestone mountain. Standing inside this shaft, they would carve out pillars and different designs, gradually moving downwards. Once the upper half of the structure was completed, a lot of stone debris would pile up below, allowing them to easily climb the slope and finish the rest of the structure. This method of construction isn't found anywhere else at ancient sites around the world. They noticed this. Researchers got a clue about this trick when they created a structure similar to Petra in America. The Nabataeans left very little writing in Petra. Only in 1 or 2 places was something found in Aramaic script. This language was used during Jesus' time in the Middle East. The script said that this tomb was very sacred. and that nothing inside it should ever be changed or removed. But inside the chamber where this was written, there were only a few shelves and nothing else. Based on the size of these shelves, it's clear. It was thought that these were used to hold dead bodies. This place was actually their burial chamber. Over 800 chambers have been discovered in the rocks of Petra. Initially, it was believed that maybe this city was some sort of cemetery. But later, researchers found evidence suggesting that there were actually living people here. When they estimated the size of the living area, they realized that during its golden period, Petra had between 20,000 to 300 residents. But it's hard to picture a city of just 300 people in a barren desert. So, where did these people get water? Where did they get it from? There's a clue that points to a structure in Petra called the Great Temple. They found some holes in the floor here. It seemed like maybe water used to flow beneath it. When experts scanned the area using GPR, or ground-penetrating radar, an important clue popped up. GPR sends out radio signals into the ground. These signals bounce back at different speeds depending on what materials they encounter underground. For example, they bounce back slowly when they hit dirt, but they come back faster through empty spaces. You can tell where there are empty spaces underground by looking at the speed of signals. The GPR results showed that there's a whole network of channels under the temple floor, similar to how plumbing is done before constructing a floor in a house. This evidence was enough to prove that Petra had an underground water system. But where did this water come from? Locals still use a water source called Ain Musa, which is a natural spring from the ground. Water comes from below, but the problem is that it's about 8 kilometers away from Petra. So now the question is, how did the Nabataeans bring water down 8 kilometers through the rocks? We get a clue from the narrow entrance of the Trera. Here, signs of pipelines have been found between the rocks. These pipelines were made up of small sections. When water passed through these small sections, it must have leaked as well. But if water was so important for the Nabataeans, how could they afford to waste it? When water flows through any pipeline, air pockets naturally form inside it, creating pressure that reduces the flow of water. This pressure pushes against the walls of the pipe, and if there are joints in the line, water will leak out from those points. Hydro engineers have conducted various experiments and found that if the pipe is tilted at a 4-degree angle, air pockets won't form. The water flow will be better, and there won't be any leaks. When experts looked at the pipes laid down in Petra, when I looked at the angle of the line, I was amazed to see it tilted exactly at 4 degrees. This means the Nabataeans knew about this scientific principle 2,000 years ago, long before we figured it out. After seeing all this, one thing is clear. The Nabataeans were masters of hydro-engineering. Water in Petra didn't just come from Moses. It was also supplied by flash floods from the mountains. Even today, those flash floods can be deadly. To avoid them, the ancient dams were built in different locations around Petra. Researchers have discovered around 5 ancient dams here, some of which have walls that have been preserved for over 2,000 years. These dams not only stored water, but also protected the city from devastating floods. So far, we know that the Nabataeans who lived in Petra traded between China, India, Egypt, and Rome. Their skill in carving stone to create structures is unmatched anywhere else in the world. How did their engineers manage to supply water to Petra in the desert? But the big question still remains. Why did this city become deserted? Why were the people living here forced to leave? Ancient records tell us that there was a really dangerous earthquake in the year 363. There's also rubble in Petra from broken structures that clearly looks like it was caused by that earthquake. Maybe that quake caused many of Petra's structures to collapse, and damaged the dams. After that, the water that was the lifeblood of the city ended up flooding it. Flash floods swept away the entire city, and whatever infrastructure was left. The Nabataeans built this place hundreds of years ago, but now it's just a ruin. There's no water left here, and no systems in place anymore. Traders changed their routes, and people from the city slowly moved to other towns. Petra was designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1985. And if you've seen Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, the Temple of the Holy Grail is actually Petra's Al-Khazneh. I hope you all enjoy and share this video. Thank you so much for your loving comments. See you next time, in the next awesome video.